Hi and welcome to Best in Tesla. So Transport and Environment, T&E, have made a few reports during 2024 and I have reported on some of them before, but now we have entered the very important year of 2025, where stricter CO2 targets will be implemented here in Europe. But as I will show you, that is what the legacy automakers have been waiting for, because they have not moved much in 3 years in BEV sales here in Europe. But now they are forced to do so after they have been playing the short-term game for 3 years, where they have been pushing for profit over value, leaving their factory with an unsustainable utilization rate. And that will become even worse here in 2025, as pure ICE car sales will drop off a cliff as legacy automakers are forced to sell more BEVs and hybrids, so scaling up their unprofitable business and scaling down their profitable business, risking that it will also start to become unprofitable as well, as they lose economy of scale and the utilization of their ICE factories will drop even lower than they already are, making 2025 the year where we will probably see the legacy automakers' true colors, and the downfall of the giants will start play out for real even more than they have already done for the last couple of years. So let's check it all out and let's dive right in. So, as expected, EV growth has slowed after 2021 as stricter CO2 standards are only coming in 2025, providing less of an incentive in the years in between for car makers to increase EV sales, like I've showed many times before. Nonetheless, sales of EVs grew by 28% in 2022, 37% in 2023, on top of the expected structural stagnation. That abrupt withdrawal of EV subsidies in Germany, Europe's biggest car market, has pushed down overall sales in the first half of 2024. In the rest of the EU, excluding Germany, the EV market increased by 9% on average in the first half of 2024. This stagnation ahead of a new target is not a new trend and was seen before when OEMs held EV supply back during 2019, inflating order books and then doubling the numbers of EV delivered in 2020 once the new CO2 fleet targets were enforced, and they were up 159% for European OEMs alone. This shows the cyclical nature of the EV market dynamics driven by the stop-start design of CO2 targets in the EU. Another factor driving lower EU EV sales in 2024 is the fact that car makers are prioritizing the UK market, where they need to meet the new zero-emission vehicle mandate target, leading to a surge of EV sales during the summer. 24% EV share in the UK in August 2024 versus 14.4% in the EU. There are of course more ways than one to get to your CO2 targets, with hybrids and mild hybrids and full hybrids and BEVs, more efficient ICE cars, and pulling together with someone like Tesla that is a pure BEV play. To Transport and Environment expect BEV to account for about 60% of the growth to get to their CO2 targets, so not in the unit sales but in CO2 credits. So there is no doubt whatsoever that we will see a big jump in BEVs and hybrid sales in Europe across the board, because they are now forced to do it again. As you can see here on this chart from Transport and Environment, the sales have basically gone sideways in Europe since the last CO2 update. They got to their target and stayed there. So I have been making videos throughout 2024 saying that in 2025 we will see growth again in BEV sales because the legacy automakers are forced to do so. So this is nothing new. I have shown this many times before, that the legacy automakers only makes just as many BEVs as they are forced to and no more. So they are forced to sell more BEVs here in 2025 because of the stricter CO2 emission, but also because hybrids will lose something like 1/3 of their utility factor. So even if you sell 1/3 more hybrids, you will not really increase your CO2 credit much. It will of course improve as you will sell fewer pure ICE cars by doing so, but BEVs are the way forward. So automakers are really forced to sell more BEVs to get to their targets. So as I talked about many times before, the legacy automakers will not do it by themselves, they have to be forced, like I just showed you. There were targets to be met in the UK, so they have grown nicely in the BEV sales in 2024. But the EU, not so much, as the legacy automakers are just waiting until 2025, where they will have stricter targets in the EU as well. And just like we saw, when the EU did not have CO2 credits before 2020, most of the EV investment went to China. The 2035 zero-emission target is crucial for Europeans' climate goals, but also economy and job creations. Even though many are seeing job cuts right now, because they are not shifting fast enough to EVs, so they are just losing market share in their ICE cars, but not really creating many new jobs in the new sustainable economy yet. So the ICE business is shrinking faster than the BEV business is growing. But achieving the CO2 target would secure investment in electric vehicles, battery production, and charging infrastructure, while offsetting job losses in traditional industries through new opportunities in the e-mobility value chain. And the car's CO2 regulation has been the main driver of investment in the EV value chain in Europe over the recent years. In 2018, Europe car makers were investing 7 times more in EV production in China than at home. However, with the introduction of the 2020 EU targets, EV investment in Europe increased by a factor of 20, from 3.2 billion euros to 60 billion euros, far outstripping China. So if it was not for the CO2 target, the legacy automakers would not even be at the levels they are at today. But as we can see, they are doing nothing but waiting for the new EV targets here in 2025. But it is also important that we keep these targets and don't change them, as Stellantis' former CEO Carlos Tavares was also out saying it makes no sense to remove them now, because with uncertainty over the 2035 zero-emission car target and a weak industrial policy, Europe is proving less attractive to electric vehicle manufacturers. Any weakening in the targets will further reduce the attractiveness of Europe as an investment destination, threatening the industry's long-term survival and jobs. Delaying or weakening the CO2 targets will also take away the incentive for car makers to ramp up mass-market EV offerings, and will therefore push them even further behind Chinese OEMs who continues to establish a foothold in the EU market, like BYD that is opening a factory in Hungary this year. This regulatory visibility is also key for investment in Europe's battery sector, with recent uncertainty around EV sales contributing to Northvolt's decision to cut staff and postpone investment, like I've been talking about in my news show. In September 2024, 50 CEO and executives called on the new EU Commission and MEPs to maintain the 100% zero-emission target for 2035, highlighting the importance of regulatory certainty for business investing in our economy. The targets are technically feasible, with a dozen affordable EVs expected from 2025 and the charging infrastructure expanding, but political commitment is needed to maintain the momentum and prevent the shift toward less effective alternatives like synthetic fuels. Yes, so most CEOs are saying do not change it, because that will just move the investment to other parts of the world, and we need to save Europe's automotive industry. But it's easier said than done, because the legacy automakers have basically gone sideways in Europe's BEV market and have not been ramping up. Remember, after 2020 and 2021's ramp, everyone was saying that Volkswagen would overtake Tesla in 2024 on a global scale. Well, they did forget that Volkswagen would not continue its ramp, because they were now home safe on the CO2 credits here in Europe and would play the short-term game in terms of profits to hide the trouble they were in, instead of playing the long-term game and getting to scale quicker, but by losing billions of dollars. As we can see Ford is doing, as they have opened up their financial books on their EV business. Because this is one of the things that Transport and Environment does not really talk about, that every legacy automakers are losing money on every BEV they sell. So sure, they can get to their target and it is feasible, but not profitable. So even though Transport and Environment does not see a crisis in the industry because they have been making huge profits over the last 3 years, well, it has come at a cost of their volume, and that has put them in a very bad spot. Like Volkswagen, it will have big challenges here in 2025 because its business strategy. The company's declining market share in China from 21% in 2019 to 12.7% in 2024 has impacted its profitability. Volkswagen has also delayed the release of its affordable EV, the ID.2, which is only expected in significant volumes in 2026. In addition, the abrupt withdrawal of the private EV subsidies in Germany has impacted their mass market base the hardest, but they are now recovering by discounting their key EV models. But that is, of course, not helping them with their profits. In general, European car makers have pursued a value over volume strategy, leading to lower production volume since COVID-19, down by 2 to 3 million units, as manufacturers prioritize high-margin modules over mass-market vehicles. Europe's 6 biggest car makers made 130 billion euros in profits between 2022 and 2023, with BMW and Stellantis tripling and doubling their profits respectively, despite selling 25% fewer cars overall, kind of hiding the trouble they're in. Look, we're profitable. Yes, but this has resulted in an underutilization of their factories and a shrinking production base across Europe. As we have talked about before, the Volkswagen is basically running at 60% utilization rate on their factories here in Europe, which is seen as unsustainable. So their short-term thinking in short-term profits have left them in a very bad spot. And now they really have to ramp up EVs in Europe, meaning less ICE car production, meaning even lower utilization rate for their ICE factories. That will truly become a rock around their leg. Because 2024 is not looking to become a much better than 2023 in terms of BEV sales, as Volkswagen in the first 3 quarters dropped 4.7% from 531,000 to 506,000 units, so more than 800,000 BEVs globally for the entire Volkswagen Group in 2024 is not very likely. Remember how Bloomberg had Volkswagen overtaking Tesla in 2024 and Volkswagen would sell 2.2 million BEVs? Well, that did not age very well. And they didn't see BYD coming either. But T&E is expecting huge growth in 2024, both for BEVs and plug-in hybrids, mild hybrids and full hybrids, as the legacy automakers are scrambling to get to their CO2 targets. But as you can see on this chart, Transport and Environment expect pure ICE sales to shrink significantly in 2025. And that is, of course, legacy automakers' biggest profits machine. So they will push mild hybrids as much as they can, as they don't lose money on them as they do on pure BEVs. But anyway, the old legacy automakers are stuck between a rock and a hard place. As we can't stop the train now, we need the CO2 credits to move things forward, or all investment in the future of the auto industry will simply leave Europe altogether. But as they have been going for profit over volume, they have not really been proving their position since 2021 here in Europe. So their economy of scale has not improved in 3 years, and they are still on their first BEV platform, which is not profitable, just like we know from Ford, but also Toyota came out and said straight away after they have launched the BZ4X that they would never become profitable on the current BEV platform no matter the scale, and would get to work on a completely new BEV platform that will come out in 2026. That has been delayed to 2027, but still they know that they will never become profitable on the current BEV platform, and now they will have to scale up that platform to get to their CO2 targets in Europe, and not to lose more market share in China. That is even further ahead in the EV adoption. So I see a very tough 2025 for the legacy automakers. They have been delaying the inevitable for 3 years now, and only been focusing on their short-term profit to hide behind, so they could show the world everything is peachy. But I think 2025 is the year that everything comes crumbling down, as they have to take the losses, either in the terms of BEV sales in volume to get to the CO2 targets, or in fines for not getting to the CO2 targets. And at the same time, the legacy automakers try to sell their BEVs in China to not lose market share, but as we know, the Chinese competition has become so good and much cheaper that they have failed to sell BEVs in China in the volume they hoped for, and therefore someone like Volkswagen has dropped from 21 to 12% market share in just 5 years in their most profitable market, while at the same time they have not been focusing too much on BEV sales in Europe because they were just waiting for the next CO2 targets to come, lowering their volume, making their factories run below what is seen sustainable. And at the same time, the Chinese are coming with affordable models made in China, putting even more pressure on the old guys' factories in Europe as they are too expensive to run and is already underutilized, making their European factories too expensive and uncompetitive. But at the same time, they have unions that will not allow them to close factories or fire employees. That is desperately needed by the German automakers. The whole European car industry is in jeopardy, in my opinion. So even though I agree with most the Transport and Environment are saying in their reports, I don't agree that this is not a crisis. I certainly think this is a crisis, and we will see it play out here in 2025, and the legacy automakers' true colors are about to be revealed. So strap in, because we are about to go on one hell of a ride here in 2025. And thank you for watching, and until next time, take care out there and be nice.